ونصلي ونسلم على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد عليه أفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم وسلم تسليما كثيرا أما بعد. ولله الحمد والمنة. We have now reached hadith number 4. Before we dwell into this hadith from Arba'in Nawawiyya, there was an important analogy that we mentioned in the previous lesson when discussing the 5 pillars of Islam. We mentioned that in order for a building not to collapse, you need pillars to strengthen that building and preventing it from collapsing. But then we also said that these 5 pillars, they have to stand on foundation, strong foundation. Without a foundation, the building will still collapse. What did we say the foundation was? No.
Iman.
No.
Oneness of Allah.
The oneness of Allah, the Tawheed of Allah Azza wa Jal. Because the core message of every single messenger, prophet from Adam to Muhammad alayhim as-salam has been اعبدوا الله ما لكم من إله غيره. Worship Allah, there's no one worthy of worship except Him. Tawheed, the oneness of Allah Azza wa Jal. So now we have these 5 pillars, this building on strong foundation, which is Tawheed, the oneness of Allah. But then we also said that a building cannot be built on any type of soil. If it's not the right type of soil, the building could still sink, and eventually collapse. So what did we say the foundation or the soil underneath represents? The good manners, akhlaq. As we said, Allah Azza wa Jalla says in Surah Al-Imran, وَلَوْ كُنْتَ فَضًّا غَلِيظَ الْقَلْبِ لَانْفَضُّوا مِنْ حَوْلِكَ. If you, O Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, if you were hard-hearted, if you did not have manners, if you did not speak to people properly, they would have fled from you. They would have run away from you. And imagine that 40 years was spent building the core soil beneath through his adab and akhlaq, to the point where his superior, ultimate adab and akhlaq was unquestioned no matter who you asked in Quraysh. He was known as As-Sadiq Al-Amin unanimously. So 40 years of that preparation before around half of that prophethood, 23 years afterwards. Okay, so adab and akhlaq is very important, extremely important. Without adab and akhlaq, there is no message of Tawheed, and there's no message to propagate to people to get them to follow the message of Muhammad Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Right. When we discussed Shahada, we mentioned that there are 2 parts to the Shahada. One is when you testify to the oneness of Allah, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. The Tawheed and the oneness of Allah Azza wa Jal is of how many different types? 3 types. How do you remember the 3 types? I gave you clues. The oneness of Allah, how do you remember those 3 different types? Remember when I said first you look around?
Look around, everywhere around you Allah made.
Allah made it. So now that Allah made it, can someone else be there with Allah? So Allah is one. Okay, that's 2. So He made everything and He is one. Now, does Allah have names?
Yeah.
Yes, and attributes? Of course. So now you have the Lordship, the oneness, and his names and attributes. And that is the way you can remember those three different types of tawheed. The latter part, the second part of the testimony of faith, the testimony of the prophethood of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we said can be summarized, i.e. the rights that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has upon us can be summarized into four. Obedience.
Love. Unconditional love.
Obedience.
Prohibiting what he has ordained us to do.
Yeah.
Say again.
Not to do what he said.
واجتناب ما نهى عنه وزجر, staying away from that which he prohibited.
Do as he
What he did actually.
Oh, that's obedience.
Obedience, okay.
And accepting that which he tells us, no matter what it is, whether it's from the seen or the unseen. And then the last one has to do with worship.
Worship the way he did.
Do not worship Allah Azza wa Jal except the way He legislated, the way He told us to worship. Yeah? So, like the example yesterday, can I pray now Isha? Let's pray 5 rakat, shall we? Why? I want to pray one extra.
Because Allah told you to do 4.
But I feel good today. I feel motivated. We're having a lesson today. I want to pray more. Maybe forget 5, we do 6. You want to pray that with me, 6? No? What will happen to the salah if we decide to pray 6?
It won't be accepted.
So maybe 2 will be rejected then. 2 out of, so you have 6. Only the 2 extra will be rejected?
No.
What will happen? The whole thing is 0. You have to start again and do 4. Even if you pray 20, the whole 20 is 0. After 20, you still have to do another 4. Okay? So, worshipping Allah Azza wa Jal only the way our Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam informed us. Okay? So now, this was hadith number 3, which was reported by Abdullah ibn Umar, the son of Umar al-Khattab. Hadith number 1 and 2, they were reported by Umar al-Khattab, and then hadith number 3 was Abdullah ibn Umar. What did we say? Say one thing about Abdullah ibn Umar. One thing about Abdullah ibn Umar.
He used to do the same things which Prophet Muhammad used to do.
Is known to copy Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to the max. Absolutely anything he can copy, he would copy. Even if it's something like coughing, moving, gesturing, anything, he will look at the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam and just do what he does. Okay? The hadith today, al-hadith al-rabi' is reported by Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu anhu. Abu Abdurrahman, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu anhu is known for his knowledge of Quran and fiqh, generally a scholar of the companions. Yeah? To the point that he's one of the few Rasulullah told him, can you read Quran to me? And Rasulullah and Abdullah Mas'ud finds this strange. Ya Rasulullah, you want me to recite to you and it was revealed to you? He said, no, but I love to hear it. So then he recited ayah from Surah Al-Nisa until he noticed that Rasulullah was weeping. So Abdullah ibn Mas'ud was one of the first people in Quraysh to embrace Islam, and he became from the scholars of the companions, as we mentioned, and he passed away in the time of the Khilafah of Uthman radiallahu anhu. So this hadith, al-hadith al-rabi' عن أبي عبد الرحمن عبد الله بن مسعود رضي الله عنه قال حدثنا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وهو الصادق المصدوق إن أحدكم يجمع خلقه في بطن أمه 40 يوما نطفة ثم يكون علقة مثل ذلك ثم يكون مضغة مثل ذلك ثم يرسل إليه الملك فينفخ فيه الروح ويؤمر بكتب 4 كلمات بكتب رزقه وأجله وعمله وشقي أو سعيد فوالله الذي لا إله غيره إن أحدكم ليعمل بعمل أهل الجنة حتى ما يكون بينه وبينها إلا ذراع فيسبق عليه الكتاب فيعمل بعمل أهل النار فيدخلها وإن أحدكم ليعمل بعمل أهل النار حتى ما يكون بينه وبينها إلا ذراع فيسبق عليه الكتاب فيعمل بعمل أهل الجنة فيدخلها متفق عليه. What does it mean when we say muttafaqun alayh, agreed upon? Bukhari or Muslim. So, reported by Al-Bukhari and Muslim, Hadith number 4 on the authority of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu says, the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam informed us and he is the most truthful. Indeed, every single one of you will start the journey of life in the wombs of your mother 40 days as a drop, a single drop. Then another 40 days as a blood clot. Then another 40 days as a piece of flesh. Then the angel will be sent and will be commanded to blow the soul within you and to testify to 4 facts that will envelop your life, will be part of your life, unique to you. Your provision, your sustenance basically, your death, your action, whether you are righteous or wretched, whether you are a good person or a bad person. And then Rasulullah swears by Allah Azza wa Jalla and says, one of you would commit to good deeds and do good to the point that there is only an arm's length between you and Jannah. But what was written at the start of your life will come to pass, and at the end of your life, you will turn evil, you will turn wretched, and you will die upon evil and enter the fire. And one of you would be evil, bad person, committing sins, evil deeds until there is but an arm's span between you and the fire. Then that which was written at the start of your life takes over, and you will turn into a good person and die upon goodness and enter Jannah. Amazing hadith. Again, like we said before, these are cherry-picked hadith. So, first of all, Rasulullah describes the journey of life, the initial part of your life in the wombs of your mothers. And he describes these stages, dividing them into 3 different 40-day periods. The first one where you are simply a drop, the second one where you a blood clot, and the third period where you simply a piece of flesh. And subhanallah, when they've discovered, when they analyzed with the technology nowadays, they can see that period of 40 days going from a simple drop to a formed human being, right? So they're actually based on those scientific research, there's been people who have embraced Islam just through that. Because not only has this been mentioned, this the cycle of the embryo in the hadith like this, but also is mentioned in a few places in the Quran. In detail, not known 1400 years ago except Rabbul Alameen, except the one who's created this fetus and this embryo. And Allah Azza wa Jalla, فَتَبَارَكَ اللَّهُ أَحْسَنُ الْخَالِقِينَ. Allah Azza wa Jalla is the best of creators. So here now we have 40 days times 3, which is 120 days. That means that before 120 days, are you considered a human being? No? What if a miscarriage happens on day 90? Do we pray janazah? Why do we pray janazah?
No.
There's no ruh. So it's not a human being. It's not alive, it's dead. It's like praying janazah on a chair that's broken. Doesn't make sense. It's not living. Doesn't have a ruh. Okay? So if the fetus, God forbid, miscarriage happens before 120 days, no janazah. After 120 days, yes. Now it's a living human being with a soul. Hence why, if he were to pass away before being delivered, then you pray janazah upon that fetus. And in a way, they go directly to Jannah. So they would go to Jannah and make dua for their parents until they reunite bi'idhnillah upon lofty thrones. So it sort of reminds you where we came from and forces us to be humble and staying away from stubbornness and pride. Allah Azza wa Jalla says, هَلْ أَتَى عَلَى الْإِنسَانِ حِينٌ مِّنَ الدَّهْرِ لَمْ يَكُنْ شَيْئًا مَذْكُورًا. Does the human being not remember that once upon a time he was nothing? He was nothing. We were not here. Just we constantly remember that and we stay away from pride and thinking that we are something. Because we came from nothing, and then even when we were born, we were fully 100% dependent. And only a few years of your life, you become independent, and then we think we're something. And then just to make it even worse, we go back to being dependent. So this life is extremely short, most of it being spent while you're dependent. So remember that dependency to remind you of your dependency to Allah Azza wa Jalla at all times. So now, this angel is sent to write down those facts that have got to do with your life. One is your total sustenance, i.e. how much you're going to have in your whole life is going to be written there. From food, drink, wealth, any sustenance. And your death will be written, and your action will be written, whether you're a good person or a bad person, whether you're righteous or whether you're wretched. Okay? So this reminds us that everything that we do in our daily lives has already been preordained, is already been written, pre-written, not only in the wombs of your mothers, but also 50,000 years before Adam alayhi salam, when Allah Azza wa Jalla ordered the pen to write down everything that will happen from the beginning of time until the end of time. You and your whole life, this very small speck and second in mankind's history that will pass by in the blink of an eye, and everything you do and everything you earn and your whole sustenance and your difficulties and your prosperity and your good and your evil and your happiness and your sadness and your depression and stress, everything has been written. So then you realize the insignificance of this life. Then you realize that there is no point over stressing regarding sustenance that's already been written for you. You can stress and run around like a headless chicken. You can harm yourself in that process, but that which has been written will get to you nothing more and nothing less. You can try anything and it will not increase by 1 penny. It will also not decrease by 1 penny. So it teaches us a tawakkul in Allah Azza wa Jal. When the bird comes out in the day, it goes out hungry and comes back full through tawakkul in Allah. It goes out, tries its best, comes back, and Allah Azza wa Jal provides them their sustenance. Similarly, we ought to apply that in our lives. So you try your best, you tie your camel, you go out, but then you leave the rest to Allah Azza wa Jal. As long as you're upon the straight path and you adhere to you keep close to what is halal and you keep away from that which is haram, then bi'idhnillah, it will allow you to live this life in peace, in preparation for the ultimate meeting with Allah Azza wa Jal. And similarly with death and your actions and whether you are good or bad. So it is important to keep in mind that when he says good or bad, it's not that that's decided for you, but that's how you are going to be. And it's extremely important, and we'll get into this again, because this goes into the matter of al-qadr. And a lot of people, they have issues with al-qadr, right? That which has been written, whether you're a good person, you're a bad person. It doesn't mean that that has been decided for you, but that's how you will be living your life. لِلَّهِ الْأَمْرُ مِنْ قَبْلُ وَمِنْ بَعْدُ. Allah Azza wa Jalla already knows the future and knows what you are going to choose, what choices you are going to make. And so based on that, it's been pre-written, just like the sustenance and death, whether you're a good person or a bad person. So now we have this example that's been given by Rasulullah straight after, that again inclines, goes towards al-qadr, which is the decree of Allah Azza wa Jalla. A person may be upright, a good person, but then it was pre-written that he's going to be wretched, he's going to be a bad person. Towards the end of his life, he falls off the straight path, makes mistakes, doesn't return back to Allah, and ends up dying an evil person. And the opposite. So this person starts off looking like Ahlul Jannah and ends up being Ahlul Nar. And then a person looks like Ahlul Nar, but then eventually ends up being Ahlul Jannah. This is another point, my dear brothers, that no matter what kind of a person you see in front of you, their ultimate state and affair is never known to anyone. Because you can see the most wretched of people, but you never know what has been pre-written for them. Which is what again pulls you away from thinking that you're better than others. Because you don't know where you're going to end up, even though we look like we're in the masjid, we're in the lesson, we pray a salawat. Number one, we don't know if that's accepted in the first place, right? And number two, you don't know how your heart is going to be tomorrow in the morning, let alone at the end of your life. And at the same time, when you come out of the masjid and you see a person, maybe he's on drugs, he's smoking, he doesn't pray, he's disrespectful, he gambles, he commits the major sins. And then you look at that person, you have to remember that maybe that person does something or will do something that will be so beloved to Allah Azza wa Jal that He will be granted favor and I'm going to be taken away from favor. And maybe that person eventually is guided. How many people have reverted to Islam and become our teachers, our mashayikh, because of their dedication to the religion? We've seen plenty of them in Jamia Islamiyya, in the Islamic University of Medina. Huffaz, ulama. And they started off as non-believers, entered Islam, and then they have surpassed us. May Allah Azza wa Jal preserve them. and preserve us all.
Amen.
So, when it comes to the matter of the unseen, we mentioned that Al-Iman is got to do with the internal actions, right? That which is inside. Because you can't do believing in the books, can you? No, you can't. You can't do believing in the angels. It's all in the heart. Out of those 6 pillars, one of them is Al-Qadr, right? The decree of Allah Azza wa Jal, apparently good or bad. Some ulama, they mention that this part of Iman is the true test of a believer. From those 6 pillars, this one is very difficult for us to tackle. Very complicated if we dwell too much into it. And so many people have gone astray, become deviated through misunderstanding Al-Qadr, the decree of Allah Azza wa Jal. The reason why this one, from those 6, this one is singled out is that it deals with our daily lives. You know, believing in Allah Azza wa Jal, we believe in Allah Azza wa Jal. We believe in the angels, we believe in the books, we believe in the prophets, we believe in Yawm al-Qiyamah. They've got to do somewhat externally to us, not directly affecting our daily lives as we see it. But Al-Qadr is different. Because the decree of Allah Azza wa Jal, part of our daily life, especially when we go through calamity, when we go through difficulty. Why me? Why did this happen to me? Why is Allah punishing me? Why not someone else? These are all deficiencies of Qadr. That's why we ask these questions. How come he's not responding to me? What have I done? I come to the masjid, I have a beard. Why is this? You know? And when it comes to Al-Qadr, then Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, we believe Allah Azza wa Jal knows what will happen to you, and He has pre-written everything that you are gonna do, but the action of good or bad is up to you. It is your choice. It is your choice to make whether you want to be good or be bad. And this is the balance of Ahl-Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Some of the deviant sects, you have them tilting either that way or this way. What do we mean by that? When you're in the middle, you believe that Allah Azza wa Jal has got His decree, everything that happens is for our good, and we have the ability to choose. You can choose to do good, you can choose to do bad. But then one side goes and says, no, Allah Azza wa Jal must have written everything you will do and will just enter you into Jannah and Jahannam. Which means that you have no control of your life. It's like a robot. You know when you program a robot to walk 10 feet that way and then walk 10 feet back towards you, the robot's not going to do anything other than that which you programmed it to do. So they're of that mentality. Now Allah Azza wa Jal, He has written down all your actions and He's the one making you be good or bad. And then reward or punish you accordingly. And what is the problem with this kind of mentality now?
Laziness.
Huh?
You take away the person's own responsibility.
So what happens now if Allah Azza wa Jal makes you be bad then punishes you? What's that?
Justice.
Unfair.
Yeah.
Ah, there's a problem. Allah Azza wa Jal cannot be a zalim, wa'iyadu billah. Yeah, He made dhulm haram for Himself. Subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? So it doesn't work. If you say that you are completely controlled, then this life is meaningless. The test is meaningless. And how are you getting rewarded through that which is not your actions? How are you being punished through that which is your action? So all of it is injustice. It doesn't work. So now, the other side. This is one side where they say Allah makes you do them. The other side say to the point that they say Allah Azza wa Jal doesn't know about them. وَلَيَّذُ بِاللَّهِ. Because if He knows about them, then that means He wants you to be a bad person and He controls you. So He must not know about them until you do them. And when you do them, like anyone else, Allah Azza wa Jalla also finds out, then punishes you and rewards you accordingly. What's the problem with this manhaj?
Means that Allah is not Alim.
Means that Allah Azza wa Jalla is not Alim. He's not the all-knower. وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. Now you make Allah Azza wa Jalla deficient. And He is free of all of that. Okay, so it doesn't work when you go that way or this way. But this all comes from sitting, thinking. Okay, how is the qadr? How does it work? It was pre-written, but I do this, but I'm going to be punished, but Allah knows. But I sit for hours and hours and hours and thinking about al-qadr. And this is the result of that. There is a certain part of al-qadr where we may not fully understand and we leave it to Allah Azza wa Jal, just like we leave other stuff that has got to do with Allah Azza wa Jal. Ar-Rahman al-Arsh istawa. Allah Azza wa Jal is above His throne. How? I don't know. He said that He's above His throne. We say above His throne. We echo, we say, we repeat that which Allah says. وَهُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْبَصِيرُ. Allah is all hearing and all seeing. How does He see? I don't know. How does He hear? Don't know. Has Allah Azza wa Jalla got a face? كُلُّ شَيْءٍ هَالِكٌ إِلَّا وَجْهَهُ. Allah Azza wa Jalla got a face, right? We got faces, but then the book is also got a face. There's a lot of things that can be put into the category of face. So it doesn't mean that if we say Allah Azza wa Jalla has a face, that He has to be a face like us. We don't know. Similarly, with the decree of Allah Azza wa Jal, when you're stuck with certain matters or when you're exposed to the grey areas of that which you may not be able to understand, then leave that part. That is how the test of the unseen works. Because one part of it, we go through that in our daily lives, and at the same time, we cannot fully understand that, just like we don't fully understand Allah Azza wa Jal. And we don't need to. We don't fully understand the jinn, and we don't need to. Okay? So that matter of al-qadr is very, very important. Allah Azza wa Jal, He made you. He knows what will happen to you, but do you have a choice?
Yes.
Yes, you have a choice. Now let's go into Dalil. Very, very simple two ayahs. The end two ayah of Surah Al-Takwir. لِمَنْ شَاءَ مِنْكُمْ أَن يَسْتَقِيمُ وَمَا تَشَاءُونَ إِلَّا أَن يَشَاءَ اللَّهُ رَبُّ الْعَالَمِينَ. It is upon you to be upright, but ultimately nothing happens without the will of Allah Azza wa Jal, the Lord of the worlds. What do we have here? Allah Azza wa Jalla tells you that it is up to you. That is the answer to the first ones, right? Because they say it's not up to us. Allah said, لِمَنْ شَاءَ مِنْكُمْ أَن يَسْتَقِيمُ. Yeah? And then the second ayah, وَمَا تَشَاءُونَ إِلَّا أَن يَشَاءَ اللَّهُ رَبُّ الْعَالَمِينَ. That's the answer to the second one. Because nothing happens except through the permission of Allah, which means Allah is Al-Alim. Allah must know, if nothing happens without His permission, that means He must already know for Him to allow that. Did you get that? Or which one you're thinking of, I'm going to have this food when I go home, this chocolate when I go home. Right. Is it correct to say Allah Azza wa Jalla made you come here? He made you, He forced you to come here. No, it's not correct? Good. Is it correct to say that Allah Azza wa Jalla didn't know about you coming? He just found out now that you're here.
He didn't get that.
Huh?
He didn't get that.
No, he got it. You got what I'm saying, right? You get what I'm saying? Yeah, of course he gets it. He's a smart man. He's smarter than me. Allahumma barik. So now how do we combine between the two? Just simply in your words, how you think. So if Allah doesn't force you, but then He also is aware of you being here, how does that work then? What do we believe in?
That was my choice.
It was your choice. Very good. Excellent. See? Yes, very good. Excellent. So our choice. We were created. It's been pre-written, but it's based on our choice. That is the point. We have a choice, but nothing happens except through the permission of Allah Azza wa Jal. So,
It's about this point, basically. He said, it's a choice. But is Allah, He is already...
let's take questions at the end.
He's announcing...
Let's take questions at the end because Al-Qadr questions take long. We might do tahajjud here as well, inshallah. طيب, عفوا. There's not much anyways, so just a few more points and then we'll go to the questions. Okay, Al-Qadr, that's that part. Everyone understood that, and that is very clear. Alhamdulillah. Now, when it comes to this example that's mentioned by Rasulullah, that person can be good, but then becomes evil, evil becomes good. There is something maybe in their lives, the reasons for that, like someone may ask, how come a person is good and then they eventually become evil? Or a person is evil, then eventually become good. Why is that a significant point? If they're that close to Jannah, then surely they should be like allowed to just inch a bit forward and just get in. And the same with Ahlul Nar. If you're going to be that bad of a person, then yeah. So this can be answered in a number of different ways. Perhaps a person that is doing good, there is some deficiency in him, or he has done something, or he has some illness in his heart, or there is something that happens to a person that ultimately leads to him being misguided. Similarly, with the ones that are misguided, like for example, the ones that are non-believers, and some of them, they become Muslim at the end of their lives. I've heard people say that's unfair, right? It's unfair. I want to tell you a story. So I just remembered this. There's a few young Libyans. There's no Libyans here, right? Because I don't want anyone to be offended. مشكلة حمزة يعني. سامحني. It's just a story. A few young Libyans, 3-4 of them, they were sitting in the park, and a Christian man in his 80s, he came and sat next to them, and he said to them, guys, I have been convinced by your religion, and I want to become a Muslim. So one of the youngsters, he said to him, are you sure though? So this old man says, yeah, I'm absolutely convinced. He goes, no, but the problem is, if you become Muslim, you have to pray 5 times a day, you have to fast a whole month, you have to give from your money, you have to travel to the other side of the world and perform rituals. You have to stay away from certain foods, you have to do this. And he kept saying, yeah. He goes, you know what? I think I'll just think about it. Thank you for giving me this information. I'll go and I'll see what I'll decide. Maybe I'll think about it. So he goes, and the rest of the Libyans, they were like, Akhi, مجنون كيف يعني? Are you good? He wanted to become Muslim and you discouraged him. And this guy goes, he says, this person here, he has enjoyed his whole life, 80 years of his life, he has enjoyed himself. Now he want to become Muslim, let him burn. He says it's unfair. 80 years he's enjoyed himself, according to them, enjoyment, right? Not having any salawat, any prohibitions, any halal, any haram. Now he wants to become Muslim and become better than us, purer than us. Let him burn. Waliyadu billah. Right? So, what I was going to say is sometimes this happens, and I've heard from some people saying that it's unfair. But then I say that you never know how this person has been. Generally, you notice that a lot of the people that revert to Islam, they are good people, right? They're good people, they have sincerity, they help others, they are there for other people. Generally, those kind of people come towards or return back to Islam or embrace Islam. Yeah? So there is something there for Allah Azza wa Jal to have written guidance down for them that eventually leads them to Islam. Even though they're that close to the nar, at the end, they turn to the religion, whether they're non-Muslims or Muslims, but they come back to the straight path and then they become from Ahl Jannah. May Allah Azza wa Jalla make us all from Ahl Jannah. The last thing I was going to mention is the importance of Husnul Khatimah. The importance of those last moments of your life. Those last few minutes of your life will make you or break you. It can make your whole life zero, or it can make you enter into eternal bliss just like that. Imagine man kana akhir kalamihi la ilaha illallah dakhala jannah. La ilaha illallah. It seems easy, right? But not everyone gets the opportunity. You live by la ilaha illallah to then die by la ilaha illallah. It doesn't work that you say, it's easy. Just like the questions in the grave. Man Rabbuk, I know it's Allah, right? But it's not that easy, it's not that simple. You have to live by those principles to then confidently answer those angels. Yeah? So, Husnul Khatimah is extremely important that you include that in as many du'as as you can. That Allah Azza wa Jalla grants you Husnul Khatimah, a good ending. And whatever ending you intend on, bi'idhnillah, if it's strong enough, then that will most likely happen. How many stories have you heard of people passing away in prostration, people passing away in Hajj, people passing away in Medina, people passing away in Umrah? Why? How? They wanted that their whole life. They yearned for that their whole life. Allah Azza wa Jalla gave them that. Or someone passing away reciting Quran. Or someone passing away doing adhkar, because they live by that, they yearn towards that. At the same time, we know of the most wretched of ways to pass away. People that are in the middle of ma'asi, disobeying Allah Azza wa Jalla, and then just seeing the face of Malakul Maut while he's committing those disobedient acts. May Allah Azza wa Jalla safeguard us all and grant us Husnul Khatimah. Obviously it depends on the person. There are many good ways of passing away, just like the examples I just mentioned. But whatever way it is, you will be resurrected the way you pass away. Okay? So if you pass away doing talbiyah in Hajj, if you're in Hajj, you will be resurrected, say labbaik Allahumma labbaik. Yeah? If you pass away in sajda, you will be resurrected in sajda. If you pass away in Medina, you will be from the ones that are guaranteed the intercession of the Messenger. Right? May Allah Azza wa Jalla make us from those people. It's very important that we keep in mind Husnul Khatimah. At least include it in your du'as. Have a vision, right? On how you'd want to pass away. Live your life by La ilaha illallah, so then that you actually get that Husnul Khatimah. Because in those last moments, Shaitan knows this, by the way, as well. Shaitan is fully aware, he's very experienced, thousands of years of experience, so he knows very well that those last moments he will try. Some narration mentioned that he would come, the image of your relatives or your parents to make you say something or do something right at the end. Huh? Fitnatul maut. Ahsan. Right? So the trials of death. When death is overtaking you, he will try that. Because that's his easiest way to success. Imagine, he just gets you to say something. And khalas. Done. Mission complete. Like he tried with Imam Ahmad. Imam Ahmad rahimahullah, at the end of his life, on his deathbed, he was heard saying, not yet, not yet. So his family asked him, oh Imam, how come you're saying not yet? So he said, Shaitan came to me. And he said, oh Imam, khalas, that's it. I have lost this battle. You're better than me. I submit to you. What is he doing? He's trying to instill even an atom's weight of pride. And what will happen with an atom's weight of pride? Jannah becomes haram. A lifetime of ibadah and millions of ahadith all come crashing down to zero. Obviously, because he is an imam and he lived by that. Iblis was no match for him. Rahimahullah ta'ala, rahmatan wasi'ah. May Allah Azza wa Jal grant us understanding of this religion. May Allah Azza wa Jal grant us sustenance that is pure and actions that are accepted. May Allah Azza wa Jal make us sincere and allow us to apply the teachings of our Messenger Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam in our daily lives. Barakallahu feekum. Any questions now? Yes, Hamza.
Question is about, you said, like the youngest brother, he said about, he's known, already known, Allah is return to the masjid, but it's just your choice if you come or not. But if it's Allah knows already you are going to come to the masjid.
Yes.
So that means he's announced. So it's not, it's a choice. Yeah, if I didn't say no, and then my mind is changed in the last minute, I'm going to turn to the masjid. Allah knows already I'm going to turn to the masjid. Is it because I've done it by myself? Because Allah makes me go to the masjid?
No, so one is the knowledge of Allah Azza wa Jalla here. So Allah Azza wa Jalla knows. لِلَّهِ الْأَمْرُ مِنْ قَبْلُ وَمِنْ بَعْدُ. He knows the past and the future. Now, some people, they have made this example. They say, oh, if there's two things here, and I say that I wanna grab this, but then I change it, I'm gonna grab this. Does that mean that this part was decreed, but I changed it? No, you didn't. Well, that which you decide at the end eventually to do, that was written in the part of the decree, Lawh al-Mahfuz, and it is your choice. You choose. The end choice is yours. If you sit at home, I say, oh, I don't think I'm going to the masjid today. Allah Azza wa Jalla knows that after 10-15 minutes, you're going to be like, you know what, I should go to the masjid. And then you are going to go. But then Allah Azza wa Jalla knows that eventually you will think, I should go to the masjid, so then I choose to go to the masjid. واضح؟ حياكم الله يا حمزة.
Can dua, prayer change the qadr?
Very good question. Yeah. So when it comes to the du'as changing the decree, then some say that the decree cannot be changed, but it's been written that you're gonna, for example, get this thing in your life, but only because you chose to make dua for that in your life. Does that make sense? So it doesn't go out of the decree. It is part of the decree, but also part of the decree is that you make dua for it. Okay? So others say that your life goes on, right? So it would go this way, but that option is there for you in your decree as well, if you make dua for it. This difference is clear. So if you, for example, come here and then you make the dua, you could get this, but then by making dua, you will get this. And then it just carries on like that. So it's like that which lands on that path of your destiny because of you making dua. So it just comes, the path of your destiny, yeah, when you make the dua, it just comes in your path because you made the dua, right? So there's two variations of that. And the first one is that it will always be there, and it was written that you're going to make dua and then get it. Does that make sense?
I mean, after this session, I will just conclude to you later, and I don't want to waste the time of others. That if I'm gonna explain same thing, it's not because I'm non-Muslim. He doesn't believe in Allah, so I have to explain him how I summarize it in my head. Because when first you read all that, I totally shake like, but now recovered after listening all, and I made us something concept in my mind. We will not explain here, but after this lecture, I will just tell you to see it if I got it right altogether in my head.
That's fine, that's fine, that's separate. And obviously, there is a difference when we're talking about this and when we're keeping in mind da'wah towards non-believers. You have to, it's not going to be the same way.
Unless I
obviously.
break it into different pieces, I can't explain. So one part that is written is the knowledge of Allah, because He knows what's gonna happen ever, and He knows past and present, future all. The second part is that I will choose everything. So human has options.
Yeah.
So if we split them differently, like that part that it's written is the explanation of Allah's knowledge, not my life. Then what I'm gonna do, it got two parts. One, I got the choice, and then if I only believe in my hard work, that concept gonna fail. I need to do hard work and seek Allah's guidance and His help. Then both together will give me success. So that's three things
Yes.
I got in all this. Like I need to work, but I need to pray to Allah, because both things are required for success. Not one
The
of
way
them.
we get to that point is, for example, with this very hadith, the angel comes and writes down if you're going to be a good person or not. But for you to be a good person, you need to uphold the halal, stay away from haram, and be a dedicated Muslim, or else you're not considered a good Muslim, right? Upright Muslim. So from the beginning, it's pre-written that you're going to do that, which means your whole life, destiny of your life, is going to be your work, it's going to be you making dua, it's going to be you attaining success through that. That's why it's written.
But if
before.
I try to explain this way, then the other person's argument is that, what's that? I can't change my destiny. It's written. I'm gonna die like this. Let
No,
me
but that's the
live my
thing.
life.
It's mentioned. That's why I said that even though it's pre-written, it's based on how you're gonna be, because Allah Azza wa Jal already knows the
So
future.
that's why I'm splitting it in this. That's the knowledge of Allah, which is, that part of hadith is testimony of Allah that He knows everything. So He knows my whole life because He knows the future. So that part is explaining that Allah knows future.
Yes.
So I keep it separate. That part of hadith is not about how I should live my life. That part is explaining the characteristics of Allah, that He knows the future. Now, how I should spend my life is do hard work and seek Allah's guidance. Unless
Yes,
I break
yes,
this
that's
in
it.
two things,
Yeah,
I can't
that's
explain
it. That's
again.
fine.
Yeah.
No problem. Any more questions?
What's the difference between your own choice and hidayah? So Allah guiding you to do something.
When it comes to hidayah, like tawfiq or al-hidayah, is the work and the effort you put in for you to be inclined towards goodness. So when you put in the work, or you have that inclination in your heart, and you try and you take the first step, then your life will be tilted in that direction, that hidayah. But it is pre-written that you will do that, and because you do that, or you are a certain way, hidayah will be given to you. Does that make sense? خلاص.
With reference to qadar, Allah written everything in Lawhil Mahfuz.
Yes.
If before 50 or some years
50,000 years,
before,
yeah.
50,000 years before creating this universe.
Yeah.
And then we have another qadar, which is every Laylatul Qadr. Then you will be decided the next year how it's going to be written for you. And then there is another qadar which happen maybe every day with reference to your mal. Is that something correct?
Well, it's not separate ones, but it's Law al-Mahfuz, and then that in a way being divided accordingly.
Right.
So like the Quran as well was revealed twice. It was written in Law al-Mahfuz, and then it was brought down to the first heaven, and then it kept coming down as events occurred in time of Rasulullah. So similarly, it was already pre-written everything, but then the annual basis has been divided. Why that's the case? We don't know why it has to work that way. But it works that way, and we believe in that. So we'll end there, inshallah. وصلى الله على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا